Houston, that defense, Wade Phillips, the Phillips 3-4. I mean, this is the best defense in the league, right? For as good as DC and Greg Williams have been, man, that Houston defense won them this game. And what do both remaining undefeateds have in common? They're both 3-0 against the spread, Zook. So that's huge. Not just undefeated. Undefeated against the spread, so they're covering. But I want to know, how is Houston an under team? We bet their total over as a live ad in week 2 against Arlington. It couldn't get across the finish line. Here we go again. 0 second half points. If you're an over better, you're frustrated with Houston right now. And I got buried for moving DC above them last week in the power poll, but look at the box score, and you tell me how the best team in the league has 0 second half points. It's not realistic. This is how the second half went for Houston. Punt, interception, turnover on downs, punt, punt. It's not a championship team. You have to do better. You can't get conservative. I don't know what they did, but they got to be better than that. DC had their first half issues. I'd rather have first half issues than second half issues. And they're lucky Jamie Elizondo is on the other sideline with that bland oatmeal offense that, I mean, Jack Cohn was like 8 of 20 for 64 yards and a pick. Just not good offensive scheme from San Antonio in the second half either. But Houston has the best defense in the league. I think the numbers back that up. AJ Smith with some work to do here. At the end of the first half, I kind of point to something. Houston's up, I think 15. There's a minute 30 left. You got a timeout. You're on the plus 25? Or no, you're more towards midfield, but you had 3rd and 17, right? So you have a chance. You have Brandon Silvers, who's been throwing the ball down the field, letting it fly the entire evening. So you got 3rd and 17. Sling it. You got John Trey Kirkland. You got Deontay Burnett, Cedric Byrd. Throw the ball. Why are you running the ball on 3rd and 17? I couldn't understand that play call. That is the definition of getting conservative, like we were talking about. And they ended up missing a 53-yard field goal. I guess they got a 5-yard gain off the run, but it wasn't enough to put the kicker in range. And they actually set San Antonio up in decent field position. Then they had a minute 30 left, almost from midfield. So, I don't know. I think A.J. Smith and that offense, they better take the defense out for dinner this week because they survived. Another incredible showing, like we said, from Brian Stewart's guys. We said San Antonio would have to avoid exactly what they did, which was getting conservative. Right, against St. Louis down the stretch, we saw them settle for a bunch of field goals. Well, we point to another spot in this game. Mid-third quarter, they had a 4th and 5 from the plus 25. They're down 15. You got to go for that. For as bad as Jack Cohn was statistically, you got to give the ball to your quarterback there. You cannot settle for a field goal and just go down 12. And they did. Credit Elizondo. Cohn threw to Vasher, and they drew a pass interference call from Harris. Hell of a play on the ball by Vasher to try to draw that, by the way. And that set San Antonio up. They score a touchdown off it. So you have to, that aggressiveness pays off. You have to keep that going if you're the Brahmas. Can't be settling for field goals. But, Harris, great player, ended up getting one back on a just beautiful interception. I think The Rock tweeted about it. Just a great play. He was one-on-one with Vasher all night. And what a pick he made down the stretch in the fourth quarter. Best of the Boulevard nominee, A.J. Harris. C.J. Brewer, another one for that Houston defense. I mean, if you saw the 4th and goal, he just blew right through that San Antonio offensive line untouched to tackle Kalen Ballage. But think about this weekend, guys. 4 nail-biters. All fantastic finishes. All the teams that were trailing had a chance to tie it or win it at the end of the game. In fact, outside of D.C. Vegas last week, and then Orlando getting thumped a few times, I think we had 9 of 12 XFL games that come down to the final possession. That shows you a competitive league right there and some parity here. Back to this one, I was surprised Houston actually didn't have a sack until the very last drive when they got home to Cone. I know San Antonio was banged up on the offensive line, but they had a couple guys back. The right guard and the right tackle were back here, so they've had all kinds of different combinations shifting through with those 5. And they eventually caved. I mean, Houston was eventually going to get a sack, right? I want to ask you guys something. So tweet me or drop a comment in the chat or comment on the video, especially if you're from Texas. We want to hear your opinion on the Houston Roughnecks and like what's going on here. Back-to-back weeks, they play Arlington, they play San Antonio, they triumph, big plays, the defense looks good, and just the attendance doesn't reflect it. I just want to know from a perspective of somebody that is from that area, maybe a Houston fan. You guys are bought in. I see you guys on television, and we want to bring the Boulevard Bowl tour there as well in the second half of the season. You guys are passionate. You got the whole lower bowl of TDCU Stadium filled, but why is the number not there? Back in 2020, it was like 19,000. So is it just not enough time to sell tickets? I know they had more time in 2020. Was it solely PJ Walker and Cam Phillips that were putting asses in seats 3 years ago? Or am I just completely off here? I realistically want to know if Houston can get to that next level, because if you add the crowd to what they already have going on there, being 8-0 since 2020, you could have something seriously special in the XFL South. A lot of DC fans, as we mentioned, they come out because they're sick of Dan Snyder and what the Washington football team has done. Now, while it's not as bad with the Houston Texans, you feel like there'd be that same sentiment. A rough couple of years for the Texans. So why are the Roughnecks not getting that same engagement as they were? I'm really curious, and we're going to learn more things and find out here down the stretch. Maybe I'm just completely off here, and there's something else going on, and they're going to draw the crowds. They're just going to come in April. This team is probably going to host a playoff game. And they have a stadium that sits, I think, about 45 to 50,000 on the University of Houston campus. So the potential is there. I just want to see what the strategy is. I'm very curious as an XFL fan. But it's a damn good football team, and it's a great organization. So looking forward to seeing the Houston Roughnecks pack that place in the future.